All right, so for those of you just joining us, welcome. Good afternoon. We're here to talk about those darn DPAs. We're going to be diving into five of the most common misperceptions, objections, and obstacles that we hear about when it comes to transactions involving the use of down payment assistance programs. I will say the purpose of this webinar is to ultimately help everyone feel more confident and comfortable when working with DPAs. So we will be having some fun, perhaps ruffling some feathers, but let's get started. My name's Will Medina, part of our DPR team. We also have with us a stellar cast today. We have Melinda Harris, our Director of Marketing and Communication. We have Lori Johnson, Customer Success Specialist, and we have Keith Futrell, a DPA Program Specialist. All of them will be answering questions in the background. So we ask that you engage with them using the Zoom Q&A feature as we go. We find it's a lot easier to track and to answer your questions there, but we are looking at the chat as well. And just as a quick note, today's recording of the webinar will be shared with everyone here. So today we're going to kick things off with a brief overview of the current state of down payment assistance programs. From there, we'll be diving into the perceptions and misperceptions surrounding these DPAs. Specifically, we're going to be tackling the five most common obstacles and objections that we hear when it comes to working with these programs. We'll be addressing those challenges head on, sharing insights and feedback from your own industry peers. We're talking real estate agents and loan officers from across the country who themselves are proficient in down payment assistance programs. They've helped us identify best practices to help cut through the noise and to help clarify timeline. And we'll also be sharing some practical tools that you can then combine with those best practices to help enhance your approach to working with down payment assistance programs. We always like to start off with a quick bio. Down Payment Resource is a national database and matching engine of all of the more than 2,400 homebuyer assistance programs across the country. Our team has decades of experience in residential mortgage finance and real estate. And we've also created tools for mortgage lenders, real estate agents, and multiple listing services that enhance the experience and the workflow when working with DPAs. Ultimately, our goal here is to help you bridge the gap and connect home buyers with the down payment assistance they need. As mentioned, I'd like to begin with a quick overview of the current state of DPA programs. Here we publish a quarterly report known as the Homeownership Program Index Report, where we take stock of what's available across the country and also look at developing trends. So from our most recent Q4 report, here's what we found. Of all the homebuyer programs available, 74% are some form of down payment or closing cost assistance. Now, within that, 80% offer deferred payments, meaning no monthly payment on the DPA loan for a set period of time. 54% are forgivable, either partially or fully, essentially turning into a grant over time. And 52% are both deferred and forgivable. To top that off, there are other down payment assistance programs that function as true grants at closing or as loans with monthly payments after closing. And just as a quick note, if you're interested in diving deeper, we also have another webinar called DPA 101. In that session, we explore these programs as mentioned in more detail, including other options such as affordable first mortgages and mortgage credit certificate programs. DPA 101 helps you understand how these programs are similar, how they differ, and what it takes to qualify for them. So we always get asked, who funds and administers these programs? Well, every state has a housing finance agency. There are also local housing finance agencies in certain markets across the country as well. City and county governments often have community or economic development departments or housing authorities. Many employers, like municipal governments, hospitals, and universities, may offer their employees some form of down payment assistance. Local housing authorities and community financial development institutions, or CDFIs as they're known, increase local DPA options as well. And you also have the Federal Home Loan Bank network operating across the country through their member banks. You have a number of nonprofits, such as NeighborWorks and Neighborhood Housing Services, and others, that operate in markets across the country with varying programs. And let's not forget that there are also community action agencies, land trusts, and so many other organizations out there, all trying to open new doors to homeownership and promote housing growth and responsibility in their market, which is, of course, your market. And they all have funded and available DPA programs. Now, where are these programs located? Well, it's safe to say that these programs are available everywhere. We're talking high cost markets, low cost markets, urban, rural. Every state has a housing finance agency whose programs are available statewide, and not to mention all of the local programs in each market. Income and price limits are also market adjusted based on median incomes and median prices in that market. So you see higher limits in higher cost markets. And just referencing the infographic, here we go ahead and show you at least the top 10 states with the greatest number of programs. But as mentioned, there's literally no county in the country where some form of DPA assistance isn't available. So, on the topic of trends, what we're seeing with down payment assistance programs is the following. We're continuing to see that demand remains through the roof. Providers are continuing to increase or change their assistance amounts, income limits, and purchase price limits to help more buyers in today's market. Providers are also expanding eligible uses of their funds, as well as the eligible inventory option. There are new state and local programs that continue to launch in markets nationwide, and 81% of all down payment assistance programs are funded and available. We recognize there's so much more attention on affordability and down payment assistance now than in many years. So we feel confident when we say that these programs are still available and are not going away. As referenced earlier, our homeownership program index report, of course, for those not familiar, the index report, which we publish quarterly, offers a snapshot of trends. And over the past few years, we've observed a net increase in the number of programs hitting markets across the country, as well as the following trends. Approximately 40% of programs have no first-time home buyer requirement. 37% allow for the purchase of a manufactured home. 33% allow for the purchase of a multifamily home, so long as one of the units is owner occupied. 26% of programs are statewide. That would be such as something from a state housing finance agency, and the rest would be considered local. And about 400 programs offer extra incentives for military service, specific professions, and so on. Now let's talk about down payment assistance. The following are some of the common things we hear, especially from the lender perspective, but we'll be considering lenders and real estate agents as we go. We hear that DPA programs may add costs. There is no margin, so that makes them unprofitable to originate. We hear that DPAs add a layer of post-closing complexity and risk. Looking at this from the lender perspective, let's say getting loans off of the books, sold, and off to a servicer. That DPA training is potentially hard to implement. There are serious adoption questions. Are loan officers going to originate these? Will closing timelines be delayed because of the use of a down payment assistance program? And of course, will the program run out of money after I start the loan application? Taking all of this into account, in the end, what we are essentially hearing from many in real estate and finance is that they love the concept of down payment assistance. but they struggle with the logistics and the economics of these programs. So that's why we're here today, to help combat some of these perceptions. As mentioned, we're here to essentially rethink our approach to and understanding of DPAs. And in fact, we're going to give you millions of reasons to rethink DPAs. But first, let's outline the 5 most common objections or misperceptions we hear about DPAs. So the way we're going to go about this is we're going to acknowledge and discuss what the issue is, whether real or perceived. And then we're going to talk through the solutions to these issues and or debunk some of them. So first, let's begin with inventory. We understand that inventory remains tight in some of your markets. This is perceived, this is real. But there are, as mentioned, creative things from discussion with professionals that can be done to help uncover more inventory options. There's confusion about down payment assistance requirements. So many aspiring home buyers still believe that they need 20% down and don't know about low down payment mortgage options or home buyer assistance programs. And thus, they often give up on the idea of homeownership. We'll be certain to tackle that issue. We know over the past few years that many sellers, or more likely the listing agents representing them, have been apprehensive about accepting contract offers from buyers using down payment assistance. So we're going to talk through the issue, then how to address it and deal with that kind of misguided apprehension. Another concern that's been around for many years is the misperception that all DPAs inherently extend, may prolong, or may delay the purchase transaction. So we'll be talking through how that's not often the case and how those misperceptions arise. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, one of the biggest problems out there is the lack of productive and fruitful agent loan officer partnerships. So we'll talk about the challenges that we hear from real estate agents and how loan officers can step in and help. Our approach, as mentioned, will be to present the issue, acknowledge it, and understand it, and then follow with the solutions. And these solutions, as previously mentioned, are what we've heard from your peers, agents and loan officers around the country who have weighed in on these issues. So this stuff isn't made up, and it is all curated from your peers. So with that, let's begin by diving into the inventory issue first. So on the topic of inventory, we can acknowledge the following: that limited supply is due to historically low inventory. We continue to see that this is real in just about every market across the country, and understandably makes it very difficult for buyers to compete. Interest rates remain elevated, which can potentially stifle demand despite enormous interest in homeownership, but has been shown to decline on occasion. Demand. So many buyers are still competing for the same properties and have been for several years now. It's important to mention the sideline buyer that is weighing their options based on the current rate environment. Also, people who purchased in the past few years waiting to move out of their home into something smaller or potentially bigger. We recognize that prices remain steady, increasing in some markets, and this idea that they'll be coming down anytime soon is um, very difficult to gauge. Buyers are, as mentioned, struggling to compete. So all of this compounds to create a very difficult situation, especially for the new buyer who are just trying to get approved, get their bids approved, and get into a home. So with that, what can we do? Well, it's important to consider alternatives to the open market. Let's look at agency-owned or municipal-owned properties and land trusts combined with down payment assistance, which can potentially be an affordable option for first-time homebuyers. And we mentioned this knowing that many local housing agencies or municipalities around the country purchase and repair blighted homes and then bring them back to market at or below cost, or even have designated funds to develop new properties meant to be affordable, in many cases in perpetuity. There are homes that need minor repairs that may give buyers the opportunity to compete and to afford a home they can make their own. And just, to be clear, we are not speaking of a gigantic hole in the roof, but those homes that don't get snatched up in the first week or two that, perhaps need a little bit of TLC, sweat equity, as it's called sometimes, they can offer a handier, motivated buyer another outlet for inventory. So coming across these, it's good to think about maybe getting to know the agents that may list these affordable properties, perhaps get on their email list to monitor their coming soon offerings. It will certainly help get out and ahead of the competition to open up these new inventory options. Another potential inventory option, manufactured housing. Um, so, with all that in mind, it's important to counsel buyers, obviously, about what the process and competition will look like to make sure they get pre-approved and probably take their home buyer education course earlier in the process. It also helps to partner with a housing counselor to help incubate and prepare new buyers. You can build a bigger and stronger pipeline over a period of time. Uh, there is an agent that we heard from in Houston using what they call calculated patience, meaning narrowing down the buyer's list of must-haves for their new home. So you're fully prepared to strike on a contract offer when the right property hits the market. It's it's important to be realistic about those must-haves and discuss those candidly while counseling your buyers. So let's talk about some of the confusion around down payment requirements. According to a study by the Urban Institute in 2018, which essentially still resonates today, 65% of prospective buyers believe that they need at least 15 to 20% down to purchase a home. And 76% have little to no familiarity with any low down payment programs. So they're obviously not familiar with terms or requirements. As an example, they may have a misunderstanding of debt to income requirements, perhaps how maybe their own student loans are calculated, how it might affect them. So because of that, they tend to sideline themselves and just give up on homeownership. And specifically tackling that nasty 20% myth, um, extremely important. Important to have marketing content and activities to better educate these aspiring buyers and let them know that homeownership certainly is within reach. So, as mentioned, what can we do to kind of combat this myth? Well, of course, combat it heavily. We know that 20% down is not the end all be all requirement to purchase a home. So we have to aggressively debunk this myth, especially amongst first time home buyers. And it's important that the marketing content reflect this information and educate buyers accordingly. Something else to get outside of our bubble. We hear from so many realtors that they got into DPA because one buyer came along who needed help, and then that led them down a new path in their own career and provided them a new tool in their tool set, and also just a heartfelt desire to help. So it's good to, let's say, align ourselves with other agents and lenders that are working within that DPA lane. It's also good to tell the stories of how you've helped others with DPA. That'll certainly help buyers um, that might have an apprehension about what's needed to purchase a home. It also makes for great content for your social media audience. Let's say letting tomorrow's buyers know what you were able to accomplish for yesterday's buyer. And let's make use of the educational tools that are out there, like our own downpaymentresource.com, or training classes from your state or local housing finance agencies, even sitting in on a home buyer education course. It's important to take the time to know and offer the tools that are available to home buyers. And part of that education is just being willing to talk about down payment assistance programs. Later on, we'll certainly talk more about agent loan officer partnerships, but loan officers certainly can help you gain comfort with DPA requirements and help open a path to helping more buyers. And look, we certainly understand if the comfort level isn't there, if you feel it's not for you, that's fine. Remaining in one's lane, there's nothing wrong with that. But if there's a willingness for a little bit of discomfort, kind of getting outside of your bubble, it's important to gain that education, to gain that confidence, to go out and find those deals because those buyers are out there and are waiting for you to approach them. Now, we know one bad experience can sour someone's willingness to work with the DPA program. So, of course, some of the misperceptions that we deal with are sellers potentially refusing contracts with DPA. Sometimes the seller, or more likely the listing agent representing them, may have a misunderstanding of a specific program, or may just paint them all with a broad brush, right? One bad experience means it'll just continue to be a bad experience. And it's important to remember as well, good to acknowledge that sellers need help framing the value of the DPA program appropriately, right? Did this program help cover the buyer's closing costs? If so, that is a huge value add to that seller. And of course, we will also acknowledge that sellers and again, their agents want certainty and they fear delays and sometimes will associate a down payment assistance program with a lack of certainty and therefore a risk of delay. All valid points, and of course, ones that we'll tackle shortly. So, what can be done? Realtors, it's important to leverage the experience and expertise of your loan officer partners. They can certainly help set expectations with even the seller and their agent. Let's leverage the value of a down payment assistance program. They could be framed as, hey, I don't need to ask for closing costs from you because I have this DPA in place. So you're going to net more from this transaction. Isn't that a wonderful value add? It's important to provide assurance, of course, that the deal will get done and done in a timely manner, which also means that you need to know the guidelines and timelines for the program you're going to be using for your client. As long as we educate ourselves and our borrowers on what is needed upfront, there is no need to fear delay. And we also have to ensure that the consumer is on the same page as you. So they should be understanding what is needed, as mentioned upfront, so they are able to be invested in keeping their home purchase on track. And we also keep hearing from realtors around the country, don't disclose more than you have to. Put in the contract what state law requires, but if you don't have to disclose the source of funds for down payment assistance, then it's certainly nothing that the seller would need to see. And remember, ask a loan officer who does a lot of down payment assistance well, and they will tell you that a DPA buyer who is qualified is still a qualified buyer. So up next, we're going to look at the huge misperception of DPAs extending the transaction. Now, anything during the loan process can cause a delay. It's not just the use of down payment assistance. An example could be the loan officer not fully investigating cash to close upfront, or the DPA was applied and added later in the process. Sometimes when a DPA is added later, people forget that the home buyer education class has to be completed. And to that point, delays often stem generally from just a lack of communication amongst all participating parties. So, what can be done about this misconception? So, it's important to build our DPA IQ, right? Understand the programs we're working with. What is the application process? What are the timelines? Is homebuyer education required? And at what point? At the beginning, the middle, the end? But in general, it's a good rule of thumb to complete homebuyer education early. Sometimes the class is good for an entire year, so that certificate they've got it on them. And it's also important to ensure all other services are ordered in a timely manner. We're talking about coordinating with the title, seller, and lender. As mentioned, it's often not the DPA that causes the problem, but the DPA surely gets the blame. Let's imagine a scenario where a buyer gets qualified, they shop for a home. It takes a while, but they finally sign a contract. Lo and behold, bank statements are expired. We need to update bank statements, not enough cash to close. And everyone says we need down payment assistance, but the transaction gets delayed. In that case, the DPA was not the problem. Insufficient cash to close was the problem. The DPA, however, was the solution to that problem, but could have been detected or anticipated earlier and done better. So, agents, work with loan officers who know these programs in and out and can close on time. Now, this last issue is one of the most important, in our opinion. So let's start with this. The most common question we get from real estate agents is, how do I find a loan officer that can help with DPA? Specifically, loan officers that meet the following three criteria: that they offer DPAs to begin with, that they are good at DPA, and that they want your DPA first-time homebuyer business. The problem is, many loan officers aren't meeting this demand with the right message, that they do offer DPA and that they are good at it. So let's break this down a little further. First, what can real estate agents do? Well, it's important to speak with current loan officers. Talk to your broker, maybe a peer for loan officer referrals. Even ask those same program providers who their best loan officers are. They, in many cases, have a required list of participating loan officers, or they have loan officers that they've done business with before who are well versed in their program. Perfect person to speak with. Also, educate yourself on DPAs in your market, right? Create those relationships with partners, loan officers, brokers that offer DPA programs. Talk with your housing finance agency about what relationships they have with lenders, LOs, and real estate agents. They know who is offering their programs, right? They know who they've been working with. Maybe host a first time homebuyer lunch and learn. Leverage your social media. Ultimately, craft an intake strategy with realtor partners that are working to get to gather consumers right in a pipeline, have them ready to go, and court other agents as well uh, that list and sell affordable and DPA eligible properties. They may themselves have great loan officer connections and also insights, right? Very important into some of the inventory that was referenced earlier. So now what can loan officers do better? Well, they can also continue to grow or learn about these programs, grow their DPA expertise. Work with your product development staff to get access to the programs that you and your agent partners and your homebuyer clients need. Host teaching and network activities, right? We talked about lunch and learns. Maybe partner with a local brokerage or maybe a specific team of agents. Boots on the ground in your community is extremely important. So get active with local organizations, employers. Also important to leverage social media and to be online and be available where and when your agents are working. And definitely make sure you have an intake strategy for those new DPA buyers and your new agent partners. And most importantly, broadcast all of this to agents. If they're asking where you are, that means that they want to know that you're the local DPA expert that is ready to step in and help. But if they don't know that you are, you know, that's a problem. So it's good. Broadcast all your success. So, just as a quick recap, let's make sure that we explore creative inventory alternatives, that we combat the myth that 20% down is required, that we continue to leverage the value that is provided by the use of down payment assistance programs, that we continue to work with buyers to set expectations and to prepare early for the process of purchasing a home, and ultimately to help craft and create effective and innovative agent loan officer partnerships. Now, remember, we said at the beginning that we'd give you millions of reasons to reconsider your objections and apprehensions about DPA. Well, here you go. Did you know? I always love starting off with did you know that 33% of all declined loans are salvageable with DPA? That includes loans declined for cash to close, but also for qualifying ratio issues. Now, DPA can't solve credit or employment or property issues, but tons of declined loans could have been saved if a DPA were identified to help with cash to close or debt to income ratios. And when a DPA is applied to those declined loans, we found an average of about 6% reduction in loan to value. Additionally, we did some research a couple years ago and found that about 68 million single family homes within the United States qualify for DPA. This was 87% of all available homes on the market. That is a ton of inventory. And lastly, through more recent research, we found that about 32 million renters are themselves mortgage ready, but many don't think they qualify. And why would you say that is? The 20% down myth, where they think a student loan will kill their deal. So they're unaware that you can purchase a home with 3 or 5% down, or maybe some of the other misperceptions that we've discussed today. We always like to say that DPA customers become customers for life. So we encourage you to tell their story, help them, and they will refer their family members and their friends. In closing, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We are here to help you and your clients find the assistance they need. We can be reached at info@downpaymentresource.com. Now, if there are any additional questions, we will be sticking around for a few minutes to answer some Q&A, but I also wanted to add, if there are any misperceptions or myths that maybe you feel were not discussed today, please also send that into our inbox. We are always interested for your feedback. So I would like to refer to our team in the back. Are there any specific questions or anything that you would like addressed?
Hey, Will, this is Mel. We've had some really good questions, some really good engagement. I just want to remind everyone, in case you missed it, that we did record this session, and we will be sending the recording and the slides out to everyone. So you should have that in your inbox, I would say, within the next 48 hours. And then if you have any questions or you didn't receive that for any reason, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on the email address that Will has on the screen right now. And then for me, for some reason, this question has come up for me personally a couple of times today, and I just wanted to address it. I'll put the link in chat, but everybody has the ability to search for programs for free from our website at any time. And we have a plethora of information in our database for these programs. So we've had a couple of questions about, who are the participating lenders for each program and what are the requirements? And so I just wanted to mention, I will slip the link into chat, like I said, for you to go search for eligibility, but anyone can do that at any time for free on our site. And then if you happen to be a partner MLS member, you probably have access to our tools and resources for free. And I will also put a link in the chat that lists all of our partners, so you guys can take a look and see if you are a member of a partner MLS. And again, if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to reach out to us. But those were my two things I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Mel. And apologies, I was reading through the Q&A. Are we able to put in our education landing page for those that are interested in signing up for DPA 101? Because I see a couple DPA 101 questions, and apologies if you just answered that.
Will, I'm so sorry, I was typing. Did you want me to put in, you wanted me to put in, okay, I see it too. I see it, yes. Enrica, I will
Thank you,
put
Mel.
a link to our next DPA 101 webinar in chat as well.
Okay, so I see a question regarding the recording. The recording will be sent, and we are also placing a link to register for the DPA 101 webinar. Regarding recordings, future Zooms in Spanish, we are always looking to expand our content offerings. At the moment, we do not, but that is a topic of conversation with respect to our educational materials. So we certainly appreciate that question. I have customers that often think they would immediately not qualify for lending due to poor credit. Is that a big problem in qualifying for DPAs? In many cases, or actually it's kind of falls on two sides of the coin there, where either they have a credit requirement or the credit requirement is whatever the borrower would qualify for with the first mortgage lender. So I think a lot of that is on a case-by-case basis, depending on the qualified borrower and also the program. Great question. I am wondering how to initiate the DPA. I have a buyer that wants to look into it, so I want to see how I can qualify them for one. And if they get approved, how to apply on their behalf. Oh, how to apply it on their loan or their offer. So I would certainly use, if you want to start the search, downpaymentresource.com, you can enter some demographic info of your borrower. You'll be provided a very targeted list of programs that match that specific demographic information. And I would say the next step would be then to reach out to that program provider. I can certainly tell you that they are always interested in hearing from real estate professionals, from realtors that are interested in learning about their programs, and that's a great way to get started. Of course, as we mentioned, if someone in your brokerage or someone you know in a professional circle knows of a loan officer that does DPA, well, that's another great way to start that conversation to see just what the process is um, to apply for that program. So thank you for your question. Regarding how do we learn what programs can be stacked? So that's actually part of the information that we're able to gather through our local partners. They will let you know whether or not the program can be combined with other offerings. They are very straightforward. So if they can't, they'll let you know. But if they can, they might set the limitation um, as to how high they'll be willing to be stacked in that order. But I would say running a search and looking for specific programs within their guidelines, you'll be able to see whether or not you can stack programs. Um, okay, Mel, I have a quick question here. Someone's asking how they can combine our marketing material with their link and the image link. I'm wondering if they're customers of ours, perhaps.
Yeah, I see that. Timothy, are you possibly a member of a partner MLS? Um, or a lender or a Down Payment Connect subscriber? If you could give us just a little bit more information, but I think high level, we do have marketing resources available to our partners and customers. And essentially, you're just gonna hyperlink. Normally people are using that with their Down Payment Connect link. You're just gonna hyperlink your Down Payment Connect link with an image that we provide in our marketing resources. You can do that in your email signature. You can do that on your website, etc. And then, of course, we have social media graphics that you can use and put your link in a post, those types of things. So I'm not sure if that helps, Timothy, but if you want to give us a little bit more info, or if you just want to email us at info@downpaymentresource.com, we can absolutely help you.
Thank you, Mel. Um, Julia, for the first time only, if you're referring to first time homebuyer requirement, no, actually, we are always pleasantly surprised continuously as we track these programs that there are programs for repeat buyers, even programs for current owners, so long as they obviously sell their property prior to closing. So no, um, it kind of falls on both sides of the coin. Some are for first time home buyers and some can be for repeat buyers. Great question.
Will, if I can tackle a couple of things that have come up
Yeah.
in chat.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sure.
uh, So we have a couple of questions about lenders that are hesitant to do or don't promote or don't want to do DPA. Um, Specifically, Brenda, we hear that a lot. And I can assure you that there are lenders that do these programs. I think Will covered this a little bit in the presentation, but we have that information. Each program provider is going to usually have their own participating lender list, and we do include that in our database and your search results when you look at programs. But a good place to start, the recommendation I usually give is with your state housing finance agency. They're normally going to have a pretty comprehensive list of lenders that work with their programs. And in my experience, I have found those lenders are going to be familiar with other local, nonprofit, those types of programs as well. So if you're working with a lender that says they don't do DPA, again, I can assure you that they're out there, and maybe check in with your state HFA, or obviously you can search for programs on our site, and we include links to participating lender list for if you need to find a lender that does DPA.
Thank you, Mel.
No problem.
So I see here from Brian, comment, question, pushback from seller side on accepting deals with DPAs, usually the turn time with processing and approval. For example, the NYC grant takes 90 to 120 days. That is a great comment, Brian. I appreciate you putting that in there. Working on the research side and speaking with some of these program providers, I can honestly say that what they do also look forward to, and may not openly say it, is feedback from you, from loan officers about what you're seeing, right, as you're trying to work with these programs. Because in many cases, they're not getting any feedback about how to make changes to these programs. And so if that's what you're seeing on the ground, if that's the interaction, it is important, I would say, to kind of get back to them and give them that feedback, to maybe help them think about potential changes down the road, that would make this, in this instance, potentially a quicker turnaround time. So thank you for sharing that. Is there any range of price on the house in order to have a DPA? Well, sometimes depending on the funding source, and I'm, referencing home, CDBG, there may be set price limits. But of course, the other side of the coin is that there are some homes that, might go up to the highest conforming value within their market. So that's certainly the figure that they're, basing off of, but it will vary. So is there an opportunity to watch a recorded DPA 101 video? You know what? I believe that we have these on our YouTube page. We do, right, Mel?
We do, and I'm sorry, I posted that in chat, but I think it got lost. I'm
It's
gonna,
okay.
I'm gonna copy and paste that, so that everybody, we have a YouTube playlist
Yes.
that includes all of our past recordings and sessions, and this one will also be in there eventually as well. So you're welcome to check out past recordings or sign up for the live webinar. We have standard webinars that we offer monthly. We have 3, and they're on a monthly rotation. So that's why DPA 101, we just had it, so it's not coming back around again until May, but you're welcome to watch recordings. And I will include that information in the follow-up email. You guys will receive a follow-up email that'll include the recording of this session along with slides, and then it will also have some helpful links. It'll include that link to that YouTube playlist, etc. So some reports that you can access, all kinds of good info. So I'll include that in your follow-up as well.
Thank you, Mel.
Yep.
And I see here, William, great name. DPA is only able to be used if the lender we choose to go through is willing to utilize it. It is one of those things where, as we had mentioned with, some of these myths, right? Like the onboarding, the training requirement, that I would say that probably is the case. Also, where does my buyer go for the buyer info session that is required? So that is another great thing about utilizing our tool within the program requirements, even just a snapshot of the information that we offer through our search eligibility tool. You'll know what the home buyer requirement is and the additional information to sign up for any of those sessions. But it's also good if you're aware of a local program, you can proactively call them, get on their list. As I mentioned, program providers love to hear from real estate and loan officer professionals. They are always interested in making those professional connections to get the word out, as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Will, I too want to point out, thank you, Jennifer, for posting in chat. Jennifer's with Stellar MLS, and Timothy that we were talking to earlier is also with Stellar, I believe. I believe Timothy, that is, I think, Stellar and Miami Board of Realtors. But I just wanted to say, Jennifer pointed out she utilizes her Down Payment Connect link, which Timothy, we were talking about. So cool, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you have any success stories, we love those. So please send them to info@downpaymentresource.com if you have any questions on the tool. And Timothy, I messaged you back. If you don't mind shooting us an email at info@downpaymentresource.com, we just want to make sure that we take time to help you understand how to get what you need done. And I don't know that we can do it on the call today, but please shoot us an email and we can help you get your Down Payment Connect page up and running. So, and Jennifer, thank you again for sharing. That's awesome.
Thank you, Mel. I think that is a great way to wrap up our afternoon here. Again, we certainly appreciate everyone's questions. And as I mentioned, the inbox is available there if there are any additional questions that we couldn't get to. But we, again, appreciate you all being here today. If you know of someone that has never attended this, please let them know of the upcoming registration. And we'd love to see you again as well. Things change, right? Content changes. So thank you all again, and we look forward to being with you next quarter.